Hey guys, Ennis here, Whiteacre Properties. Today I'm at the Meetup event and you guys have heard me talk about the Meetup a lot. I'm here to network. I'm here because I have a guest speaker to share with the group. The mission here, guys, is really to elevate the lives of those that are looking for financial freedom, time freedom through real estate investing. So guys, tonight's guest is Zach Beach, and Zach will be talking about creative financing. It's another tool in our tool belt as real estate investors. So if this is what you're looking for, stay to the end, watch the video, and like, share, subscribe. Guys, I want to see you at the next event, so come join me here in Natick next time.
You say, hi, Zach. Now, all kidding aside, my name's Zach Beach, CEO of Smart Real Estate Coach. I've been doing creative financing deals almost 10 years now. Now, it's funny because I was talking to people in the crowd, and they're like, yeah, you like creative financing deals, you like can't really do those in Massachusetts. And I said, what's interesting is I hope everybody continues to think that way because there's going to be more deals for us when we talk about creative financing deals, because I was a bartender and personal trainer just as short like 9.5 years ago, and I got introduced to this world of creative financing. Now I'll share more and more about our family and our story here throughout the course of tonight, but I was naive enough to not take the traditional path for real estate investing. You know, most people say the traditional path is what? You either go do wholesaling, and then eventually you can start buying and holding and keeping deals, or you go the realtor route and you start to understand the business model. Well, I was naive. Not to say those were the wrong paths. Those are great paths. But I was just naive enough to think that somebody would sell me their house without money, without banks, and without personally guaranteeing debt. And thank God I was naive enough because I've been doing that now for almost 10 years. So these deals, we're going to share today about the secrets of creating 3 paydays per deal without cash, credit, or going to banks. Now, if you can't see in the back, I encourage you to come down because we're going to go over a bunch of case studies and stuff as well here. It's so funny because I normally, when I travel across the country, I got to tell people, hey, I got a couple disclosures here. Number one, from Massachusetts, and I talk fast. I don't have to do it in this room because how many of you are from Massachusetts in this room? Everyone? Some are not. Some people just don't want to participate. I like to always say this too. This is not TV. I can see you. So I encourage some participation here. This is going to be a really long hour. You're just going to hear from this gentleman speaking as fast as possible about buying real estate without cash, credit, or personal guarantees. And I'll go over some of our deals as we go throughout today as well. Because, look, there's an old way of buying real estate, and that old way really just is dealing with one specific payday. Because I know a lot of us, I heard some of you guys say, hey, I'm getting involved in real estate because eventually I want to leave my W-2 job. How many of you guys are interested in doing that in this room? Everybody in this room wants to do what they're doing right now for the rest of their lives. No, okay. Well, getting paid one time specifically on every single deal makes it very hard because you end up creating another job for yourself. Ask me how I know. So today we're going to talk about real estate investing through creative financing. I know you guys are all super educated. My 6-year-old son did not draw this. This was me. I know it's a beautiful picture. But I did just want to quickly go over what traditional real estate is, right? When I say traditional versus creative. So traditional simply means that you are a buyer or real estate investor that has to go to a bank, put down a large down payment, get your credit check, collateral, personal guarantees, fees in order to buy a piece of real estate. It's a very tough process. Also, when we're dealing with a unstable real estate market, it also becomes quite risky when you're dealing with banks consistently. And also, I talked to some of you guys in the room, and you were telling me how a lot of the deals you're hoping to get actually weren't cash flowing because of the high interest rates. Well, today I'm going to share with you how you can actually avoid a lot of that. So today we'll talk about the new way of buying real estate. So don't worry, if you want to talk about fix and flip and wholesaling, you can talk to Ennis in the back of the room. Today we're going to talk about the new way of buying real estate, and that's how you're going to get paid 3 times on every single deal that you do. So how many are actively buying real estate in this room? Okay. And keep your hands raised, traditional, so you're a realtor. Keep your hands raised if that's what you're doing. If you're buying real estate for buy and hold, keep your hands raised in the room. Wholesaling, keep your hands raised. Okay, awesome. How many of those deals that you come across maybe don't fit inside your box that you have to give them away, like Ennis was saying earlier? How many deals would you say on average? 1 deal, 3 deals, 5 deals, 10%, 20%, 30% of the deals that you're actively prospecting for don't fit inside that box? Well, this is why I want to unlock the key today. So I'm not telling you to do anything different than what you're currently doing here today. But I want to share with you today is how to open up and to create more deals without having to prospect more. And I'm going to share with you how lucrative that it can be as well. So today we're going to eliminate banks. We're going to share with you exactly how to go directly to seller. I promise you it's not that complicated. I know I was speaking with a couple of you in the room. They said, how do we convince sellers to give us these deals? Well, we're not convincing sellers. We're going to talk about solving problems today. Because the interesting fact is that not every seller needs all their money today in order to solve their problem. Not every seller even needs a down payment today in order to solve their problem. And not every seller needs even their price to solve their problem. Like, what's interesting is Ennis was talking about how he met us 7 years ago when creative financing wasn't even cool, right? Now it's really cool to talk about creative financing and no money down. We've been in the education business for a long time. And I don't mean in the sense of we're coaching and mentoring people, which we are. I mean the education business of educating sellers that there are alternative options out there, or educating buyers that there are ways to buy a house even though you can't qualify for a loan. The mainstream media finally caught up to us. Some articles from the Wall Street Journal saying buyers are finally getting mortgages basically from unlikely source, the seller. And Realtor.com even said that we bought our house with a loan from a seller. The housing in 2023 and now 2024, when interest rates are skyrocketing, that means that there's more deals for creative investors like you and I. Because by the time you leave here, I promise you, you're going to know more than 95% of people out there when it comes about creative financing. So let's keep diving in. We have over 75 years experience, so you're not talking about some jamokes that just walked in here that did their first sub-2 deal. We've done hundreds of these deals. We're in 80-plus markets with our community all across the country. Heck, even our coaches who train a lot of our people have at least 4 years of experience when it comes to these types of deals. Now, you can't say that for your average YouTube star, but what I can share with you is today you are going to learn the correct information when it comes to actually doing these types of deals, because it's important, right? When we hear words like sub-2, and I know we got some attorneys in the room, they probably already start cringing unless they're doing those types of deals, because you have to protect every person involved in order to create a good transaction. So what is actually buying and selling on terms? It really just means that there's no banks, there's no large down payments, and you don't personally sign or guarantee debt ever. When you're in an unstable market, what's the best way to protect yourself? It's by not personally signing and guaranteeing debt, because at the end of the day, if the market drops, with all the deals I've done, I'm not personally liable for any single one of those. All right, so who's this for, right? Somebody interested in supplemental income, somebody that's interested in a replacement income. We have people all across the country that want to retire. That's exactly what we help them do. IRA or Coverdell. I was explaining to a gentleman, it was either Doug or Paul or somebody, Zach. And I was explaining to him how we bought a 6-family property in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and it was a 6-family. We went in and closed on it. It was one of the first deals I ever sat on, and the seller actually paid us $7,400 at closing. Now, we did that in our IRA. You mentioned Chris did it in his self-directed IRA. And that deal ended up netting 6 figures. And he all did it in his IRA and Coverdell. So that's certainly an opportunity for you as well. Or if you're interested in buying your own home. Well, I was one of those people that I sell to. I usually sell them rent to own. I'll explain what that means in a minute. Me and my wife, we were interested in becoming homeowners. We were self-employed. Crazy enough, I was able to get more of a loan as a bartender than I was a real estate investor. So what did I do? I said, all right, while I'm prospecting, I'm just going to tell people, hey, if this house is a good fit for me and my family, I'll buy it on creative financing. And here's why I need to do that. So what we ended up structuring is, everybody been to Portsmouth, Rhode Island? Does anyone know where that is? We're outside of Newport. This is right on the Sakonnet River. So you can go out there and buy really nice houses with creative financing. I'm going to share with you, this is the exact deal that I put together. I won't go too deep in the numbers. We're going to cover a lot of numbers here today because that's all creative financing really is. This particular property was on the traditional market for $525,000. The down payment, if I were to have bought it traditionally, would have been about $52,000 at the time, about 10% down. The average loan price, or the average interest rate at that time, was about 4.5%. I know you guys are telling me those are freaking great interest rates. At that time, it was, we all were like, that's steep. That means my payment would have been $23.49. The principal on that loan, because it was a new loan, would have been $622. Is everybody tracking with me so far? Okay, well, here's what I did. I bought the property for $525,000. Yeah, I paid retail, I get it. But I put down $2,500. And then I put down $2,500 later. That's the total down payment that was in that house. Me and my family moved into this house. We get to look at the Secana River. We get to enjoy the nice little beach right down there. I'm only in it for $5,000. My payment, because there was already a loan on the property, was $2,100. I'm already saving $48,000 in a down payment. I'm already saving $239 a month in cash flow. Oh, and by the way, there was a $1,000 principal payment that was on that loan as well at the time. If you learn creative financing just to go buy your own house, you already have won. I see a wholesale just started a month ago. Do you own your own house yet? Man, I take these scripts I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you the toolkit later today for free. Take those scripts, go buy your own house. Utilize this technique. I promise you, you're going to be in a very strong situation. Make sense? Okay, I know it's like 8 o'clock, and I don't want to lose you guys. I'm going to talk as fast as possible. Okay, so if you're in this room trying to get rich, you're speaking to the wrong person. I promise you it is going to take 3 to 7 years in order to master any business. We actually interviewed Brian Tracy. Anybody know what Brian Tracy is? On our podcast. He said, Zach, it doesn't take 3 years of commitment. It takes at least 7 in order to master a business. So if you're here, and this is the first time you've been in the real estate business, just know you're going to be here for another 7 years. All right, this is all about bridging the gap here today. So let's talk about the 3 ways that we buy real estate. Number 1, owner financing. 2 is going to be lease purchases, and 3 is going to be subject to the existing loans. Don't worry, we're gonna fast forward. We're going to go through this. So I'm going to share with you some case studies. So what is owner financing? Owner financing just simply means that the seller's the bank. Now, when I talk about a pure owner financing deal, that means that we're going after debt-free houses. No mortgages. Important for you to know that, because if you have a debt-free house and you're buying it, you can actually create any terms that you want. So the seller becomes your bank, title transfers to you, you make monthly payments to the seller. A lot of the deals that we do are interest rates as low as 0%. Now I'm going to share with you a 0% interest rate strategy, and then also subject to the existing loan. So now let's kind of go on the opposite, right? And don't worry, I'll share with you why sellers would do this. It's the number 1 question I always get. Why would they do this? Buy a property subject to the existing loan typically means that there's 0 equity in the deal, right? That's like your pure sub 2. Mortgage stays in the seller's name. Yes, you're going to close on it. You're going to pay the payments on the seller's behalf. Then you make their payments. Some fun facts here. More than 9 of every 10 houses, homeowners have less than a 6% interest rate. And what's even crazier than that is 4 out of 5 houses are less than 5%. So if you just learn strategy number 1, owner financing, strategy number 2, subject to the existing loan, you can acquire pieces of property right now for 6% or less when the average American can't get anything for less than 6.5%. Extremely powerful, right? I got 2 deals right now, a 2.75% interest rate in Norwich, Connecticut, and a 2.25% interest rate in Mendon, Massachusetts. These deals are out there. Sellers are willing and able to go ahead and sell you these types of properties. Why? Because we're solving a problem. As we walk through case studies, I'll share with you those exact problems we're solving. And last but not least, lease purchases. So a lease purchase, just think about it. You're just controlling the asset. You're going to agree to take over any and all responsibilities of the property. You're going to then You're going to then make the monthly payment on the seller's behalf. Title's not going to transfer, and you're just going to control it. And I'm going to share with you in the case studies how you can actually build in equity in the deals you don't even own by simply utilizing our strategies. And of course, you need to cloud the title of the property because you don't want the seller selling to, his Uncle Sam while you have control of it. All right. Yeah, Zach, these are all really great techniques on how the heck we actually do these things. So I want to give you guys some actionable items. If you guys did bring your pens and papers, ladies and gentlemen, this would be a good time to start writing, okay? So steps to finding these properties. I know you guys are well educated. So number 1, we want to find these sellers. 2 is we want to create the terms of the agreement by solving a problem or, most importantly, helping somebody get to the goal of. There's plenty of deals I'm going to share with you. 0 mortgage. Why would a seller sell? Because you're getting them to a goal. And then last, we're going to go ahead and close on the property. So how do we find these sellers? Well, we've been actually utilizing these exact lead sources for almost 10 years now. Number 1, expired listings. I don't care if you're the best agent in the whole wide world. Trust me, my father-in-law was a broker owner for 18 years. My brother-in-law, who's one of my business partners, was an agent for 8. they all had expired listings. So expired listings is great. Why? Because they've been on the market and it wasn't solved. Their problem wasn't solved by the traditional market. So we pick up the phone and we give them a call. For sale by owners. They typically need seasoning, right? Because they believe that they can sell on their own. But great opportunity. Referrals. This is amazing network of people. I always have wholesalers, fix and flippers, agents, mortgage lenders, whoever else fits inside the ecosystem of real estate investing, feed deals because we all have our own box that we're interested in creating. Heck, Ennis just created a deal for someone that made $6,000 by simply sending it over to him. And then niche lists, so direct mail or directly going after very specific properties. This is a deal that we did in Auburn, Massachusetts. This particular seller relocated down to South Carolina. We structured the deal. Seller said, caveat, you can come up. We'll do an owner financing thing, but you got to buy it right now. We put down $900 and we purchased this property. This deal, we helped one of our community members out in Fresno, California. This is a seller that was a tired landlord. She did college rentals. We went ahead and structured the deal, created 67 on it. And then this is a realtor referral. The seller was, the listing was about to expire. The seller's relocated down to Alabama. So he called us up and said, hey, Zach, this property's going to expire. Can you guys go ahead and structure one of those lease option things? So we said, yes. I talked to the seller for about 10 minutes, structured a deal, created about $81,000 in total profit on that deal. So here's 5 common terms. So I know I keep using the word like terms. Terms is like, it was very well known, especially if you're in like your 40s and 50s. Us, hip young kids now, we call it creative financing. So here's 5 terms when you're structuring a deal. And they're not always relevant. So number 1 is a purchase price, right? If you're agreeing upon terms of the seller, maybe you got to agree upon a purchase price, or we would consider a locked-in amount of equity. 2 is going to be a down payment, not always relevant. There's plenty of deals that we do that do not require any money down on the deal. Interest rate, not every single one of our deals, as I explained with owner financing, does require an interest rate. But of course, if there's already a loan, there'll be interest rate. Amortization or a balloon. So if there's already a mortgage on the property, of course it's amortized, right? But if there's not, you can structure a balloon where you make monthly installments with the rest of it being paid at a certain period of time. And then lastly, a monthly payment. So let me pair it up to a deal that we did. This is the deal in Plymouth, Massachusetts. The seller is actually a broker. What we ended up structuring, it took me about 6 months to get this deal done, so it wasn't easy. You're seeing a $945 purchase price. We put down $8,000, so that would be the down payment. I know we broke the rule. $2,500 principal only payment at a 0% interest, and then we had a 48-month balloon. So that was how the deal was structured. Now I'll share with you in a minute how we exit out of them before the balloon ends. And thank God we sold that thing because those bluffs were coming up, and man, that was going to be terrible. But we ended up exiting out really well. Okay, so here's a couple common reasons why sellers sell to us. Because does everybody have that question in your mind of like, why the hell would people actually do this? Okay. Number 1, maximize price. So there's plenty of deals that we buy that we can actually help the seller net anywhere from 5 to 15% more on the deal. Now, why can we do that? We can do that because we care more about time. We care about the length of the term. So I can buy your property, right? Imagine if I have a 0% interest rate. I can buy your property at full price because if I'm making monthly payments, I'm going to pay down that principal balance pretty fast. I'll be way below market in a very short period of time. So I can help a seller get to their price. 2 is creating cash flow. There's so many tired landlords out there where they're sick of dealing with tenants, toilets, and trash. So instead, I can step in and say, instead of dealing with a tenant, you can deal directly with an investor that's been doing this for a very long time. I can make sure your monthly payment gets paid on time, and I'm not going to call you for anything. And estate or tax planning purposes. I'm going to share a deal at the end of here that we did commercial. So I'm going to talk about small multis and commercial as well, where we actually bought the property. The seller literally had a sign in their yard stating that they wanted seller financing because he wanted his family to be able to receive cash flow without managing the asset anymore. And then debt relief. 2 of the properties actually one of the properties I'm working on, I mentioned the one in Mendon, the people relocated to Alabama. They're making 2 mortgage payments right now. They have that one and the vacant house in Massachusetts. They have a house in Alabama and the one in Massachusetts. How many people can make a $4,000 mortgage payment on top of their current mortgage payment for how long? Eventually, people reach their end. And that's how we're able to structure that debt relief for people as well. So let's talk about now how we sell. I know a lot of you in here, we do buy and holds, fix and flips. We sell and rent to own. And there's a bunch of reasons why we sell and rent to own. One being that we don't want to actually manage these properties. So all the single families that I do, sell and rent to own. Because then I also don't have to deal with management fees. Now, rent to own is usually misunderstood. How many of you guys have done a rent to own deal in here? Look at the hands go up. I'm so glad I came because I have now showed up as your rent to own genie. I'm going to share with you the magics of rent to own. Okay. This is how it works. A rent to own is simply a program to get somebody from not bankable to bankable. And I'm talking about people that actually want to become homeowners. I know we used to do, like every 6th deal with you, Edison Yoni. It'd be like, all right, you got your fix and flip. If you don't need your money today, I'm going to share with you how to make a lot more money and not have to manage it. So we used to do that with Ennis and Yoni as well. So if you're currently doing fix and flips and you want to hold, then you can go ahead and after you don't need a certain amount of money, right? If you just want this one to sit here, you can structure a rent to own deal in order to go ahead and make some additional cash flow. Interesting enough, it's roughly 82% of the market cannot walk into a bank today and get a loan. Isn't that amazing? How many of you like to service underserved communities? Anybody want to like give back to the community? Well, talk about a community that can't be served right now from a bank. Those are people that can't qualify for loans. So every single deal that I buy and I sell rent to own, I tap into a 4 times more market than people are currently doing on the traditional market. Now, don't jump at me here because the reality is out of those 82%, not all of them are qualified, right? We don't want all of them to be our rent to own buyers. But there's a significantly bigger portion of people that I can tap into that have the ability to eventually become homeowners, and that's what we want to do. So here's some steps. Number 1 is we've got to find and qualify these buyers. 2, we want to create the terms of the deal because when we buy the property a certain way, we're going to sell it a certain way, which is going to allow us to now create profits on these deals. And then we structure a rent-to-own agreement with a definitive date of purchase, which really allows them to really structure this long-term. That's Tiverton, Rhode Island, not too far from here. This seller was self-employed. She actually owned 2 businesses, never ever wanted to go get a mortgage. She actually put down $100,000 on this property. This is a nice deal in Marston Mills. Actually, we bought this from a divorced couple. It was an amazing deal. The tenant buyer is still in the property. That's why you see projected profits. A lot of our deals last anywhere from like 3 to 10 years. And she's living in there. That deal actually, she put down $41,000. That deal will be about $123,000 on this deal. How do we find these buyers? Online marketing, so we're on every single platform that you can imagine. We have local signs. Actually, one of the first deals that we ever did right outside Newport, Rhode Island, the buyer's a mason. There was a realtor sign in the yard. They drove by it every single day. Never called on it. Why? She knew he couldn't qualify for a loan. We placed a rent-to-own sign in the yard within 14 days. $20,000 non-refundable deposit in our hands that we split with the seller for that particular deal. You never know who's driving by the house and where they want to live. And then, of course, referrals. Are there any mortgage lenders in the house? Any mortgage lenders? You just like not invite mortgage lenders? No mortgage lenders here at Whiteacre. Well, those are always the first people that know if somebody can't qualify, along with realtors. Apparently, we need to invite some mortgage lenders. Anybody know any mortgage lenders in here? Yeah, call your friends right now because they're going to have a ton of business. We only take privated hard money here. All right, terms of rent to own. Purchase price, of course, you're going to buy the property for a certain price. You're going to sell it for an elevated price. These buyers are willing and able to pay a premium on these houses because you're taking it off the market. Down payment. All of our properties require anywhere from 3 to 10% down of the elevated purchase price. This is what I mean by we actually have buyers that just need time to qualify for loans, not just tenants that hope to become homeowners one day. Very different. Monthly rent payment, so all of their payments every single month is just rent. And then they have a mortgage readiness date. Of course, a length of term. This is a deal we did in New Hampshire with one of our community members. We bought this property, $625. I'm sorry, we bought it for like $585. We sold it for $625. Brand new construction. Must be like, why would they sell it on creative financing to us if it's brand new construction? Well, if you notice, there's a trailer park behind there. So all the traditional buyers wouldn't buy that property for the price they wanted because they kind of didn't want a trailer park to be staring at a trailer park outside their master bedroom. So we went ahead and purchased it. Young couple, they're like 18 years old. They started a paving business, so they were super cash heavy. They wanted to become homeowners. They put down $93,000 as a down payment. Now, that's not how every single one of these deals works out, but if you buy properties correctly, you're going to have some of these home runs, especially a $93,000 down payment. Who are these buyers? Self-employed, legitimate hiccup in their credit, had a job change. Anybody that could qualify for a loan at 3, 4, 5, 6% that can no longer qualify for a loan at 6.5 to 7% right now, and that's with good credit. All of these people. I was on the phone call with somebody that's relocating from San Antonio, Texas, or in the military up to Massachusetts looking at one of our rent-to-own programs. They have pre-quals of $750. We have it on the market for about $750, $775. Why do they want to use our rent-to-own program? Because we're able to get them into a property with a smaller down payment while they wait for their other house to sell, and I can give them flexibility because they're going to be on our rent-to-own program. So what can they do? They can wait for interest rates hopefully to come down because my monthly rent payment is going to be less than their interest payment. I mean, in their mortgage payment if they went and bought the house today at 6.5%. So huge opportunities, huge market. So they just need time for seasoning, time for if they're self-employed, and to increase their down payment because we help people increase their down payment over time. If they come in with 3%, we'll structure it up to 10% over the course of their 2 or 3 years. All right. Before we dive into how we structure and how we get paid on these deals, any questions so far? You guys are all brilliant. Do you want to know like what questions to ask? Go ahead. Do you guys have an office in Rhode Island? We do, yeah, in Newport. Yep, but we're primarily remote. I mean, I buy throughout Mass, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, and then we're in 80-plus markets all across the country with our community.
So your rent-to-own deals, when you guys do flips, is that you're just looking for a buyer that's looking to rent-to-own? You don't put it up on the market, or?
No, so I buy deals creatively, nice move-in-ready properties. I want the heaviest thing for you to lift is your pen. I used to say that, but now everything's DocuSign, so you don't even have a pen anymore. But yes, all the deals we do, even the deals that require money to put into them. Like we did a deal in Connecticut that was down to the floorboards. We sold it on a handyman special to a rent-to-own person that was a contractor. They came in that day with their family the day they closed, and they were laying down tile. They were painting. They were doing everything. So that way we build an equity, or we call it a handyman or a sweat equity deal, and they put it together instead of us. We did a deal in North Carolina that didn't have copper. All the copper pipes are gone. We sold it on rent to own. The guy came in, contractor, worked on it. He made money. We made money. On your flips, question: do you make money while you're working on the property? No. Well, you can in your rent to own, and you don't have to do anything. Just an idea. Okay, this is our federally trademarked 3 payday system. This is what we've developed over the past 10 years. So when I talk about 3 paydays, this is what it looks like. You get paid as a non-refundable deposit. So when you close on the property with your buyer, we call it a closing. It's really a formal lease signing. They give you a non-refundable deposit. That's what payday 1. So you pull some of your profits off the table today. Talk about being risk averse. Being risk averse means you take some of your profits off the table, just in case anything happens to the market. Our payday 2 is the cash flow. I know everybody's in here for cash flow, right? It's like the number one thing. And then 3 is equity. So over the course of the time that the person's in the house, you're building an equity. All right, these are our numbers over the past 10 years. Your numbers could vary, full disclosure, right? Our average non-refundable deposit is about $27,000, so that's our payday 1. Our average payday 2 is about $308 per month per property, and our average payday 3 is about $35,000. So we average about $75,000. So if you broke that down into 3 years, the deal's making us about $25,000 per deal, per year. All right, let's walk through some deals. So this is a lease purchase. Remember, you don't own it. You're just controlling it. And this is probably where you guys will ask a bunch of questions. So we bought this property for debt and equity of $283. This is important because if you're using our agreements, we lock in the seller's equity. The importance of that is if you're locking the equity versus buying a purchase price, you actually get the benefit of principal pay down because you're making the mortgage payment for the seller. So if I lock in your equity today, every month that I make a payment, I get the benefit of principal pay down. That's how you gain equity in a deal that you don't own. All right, we had a 36-month term. Remember, this was that realtor referral. I always like to come back to it. Any realtors in the room? Well, imagine if you could take down this deal instead of letting it go to expired. I want to get you on my side. I want to get you on the investor side, the good side. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, we're all part of the ecosystem. This buyer came in with $24,000 down, so that's at 24. So remember, we bought it at $283, we sold it at $329. Okay, we elevated the price. We collected $24,000 as a down payment. We're making $1,818. That's the seller's current mortgage on the property. We're collecting $23.45, so that's our rent. So we're getting $527 in cash flow. So over the course of 36 months, it's $18,000, almost $19,000 in cash flow. You tracking with me so far? Okay. If you're not, just stare at me with big eyes and be blank. Don't move. I'll know that I got to ask you guys more questions. I haven't even done a dad joke yet. I feel like I'm due. All right, so we marked it up $46,000. We had $15,984 in principal pay down. That's why locking in the equity versus buying at a certain purchase price puts you in a position where you make a lot more money. I already know there's going to be questions. All right, we already collected $24,000, so that's credited towards the purchase price. This is how we help a buyer actually qualify for a loan because their down payment is sourced and credited. So now when they go to a bank, they say, hey, I bought this house for $329. I already have $24,000 into it. I just need to now qualify for the bank loan in order to for the remaining balance. Does that make sense? So it's like a delayed cash sale. I give you a down payment today. I qualify for a loan in 36 months. Clear as mud? Okay. Our total back-end profit on this deal is $38,000 because we marked it up $46,000. We add the principal pay down and we subtract the money we've already received. So this deal is $81,000 in total profit on a deal that we didn't put any money down, I didn't go to a bank, and I didn't sign personally. Trust me, if a bartender can do it from Worcester, Massachusetts, I promise you, you guys can all do it. What questions do you guys have on this particular deal? Go ahead, Paul. I think it's Paul. Correct.
So this is nothing more than what they call a sandwich lease option?
You got it, sir. I knew someone was paying attention.
How do you go about marking up the home sale like that price? You just look for comps in that area 36 months later, or do you have that?
No, they lock in the price day one because in order for us to determine a mortgage readiness date, we have to have a price, we have to have a down payment, we have to understand their credit score, if they're seasoning, or credit score, or their seasoning, because then we work with a third-party company that used to write mortgages, and then they could say, all right, well, based upon where they need to be and where they currently are, they'll be mortgage ready in this certain time frame. Cool? Yeah.
Zach, what happens if you can't find a buyer?
That is if you can't find a buyer. So if you're just getting started, I would encourage you to buy all these deals contingent upon finding a third-party buyer. So like this particular deal, I wouldn't start making monthly payments on this house until I had a rent-to-own buyer in hand. Does that make sense? Protects yourself, right? Also, I didn't even include this, but another profit center that you can make is you collect first month's rent at the time of signing, and our agreements state that we don't make payments on the house until 30 days after the buyer's in the house. So you can collect a nice little bonus there at $23.45. How many first month's rents do you need in order? I mean, if you just did that, that's $24,000 a year on a deal a month. Paul's up. I know we got the superstar in the room.
Also, if they don't make
Sure. Actually, yes, that is a benefit. Sure. But I actually stood on stage with many people, and that's like their full intention of the lease option, is to say, I'm just going to collect non-refundable deposits, and if they cash out, great. If not, I'll do it all over again. Morally and ethically, that doesn't sit well with me, so that's why we have a very specific strategy in order to get them to the finish line. But yes, the worst case scenario is they do default, and you go do it all over again. Correct. Yes, sir. Are you buying the property, or are you just assigning it? This property in itself, we're controlling it. So we control it with a lease option, and we sell it with a lease option. That's why it's known as a sandwich lease. So you're in the middle between the two deals. We'll talk about buying it here in just a second. I'll run through one more lease purchase deal. Just so you can see the numbers again, I know like repetition. This property was a for sale by owner. We bought it for, we locked in $75,000 in equity on this deal, and the debt on the property was $124, so that's roughly $200,000. We sold it for $220. We collected $21,000 up front, plus first month's rent, so that's $22,500. Our monthly payment on this is $1,137. We're collecting $1,550 for our buyer, so that's $412 in cash flow. So over 24 months, that's $9,888. Our price premium was $20,000. We had a principal pay down of $258 a month, so that's about $6,100. We already collected $21, so our cash out payment is $5,000. So this deal in total is about $40,000 on this 24-month deal. So again, non-refundable. This is another lease option. I just want to give you guys some repetition. Make sense?
When you say lock in the equity, where does that come from?
Yeah, so let's say, so this particular property is $200,000, right? So I go to a seller and I say, what my agreement's going to say, it's going to say, what I'm going to pay you at the time of closing is I'm going to pay off the existing loan and $75,000. Instead of saying I'm going to buy it for $200,000, I'm going to lock in your equity today. So my contract's going to read on and before 36 months. They don't get the benefit of the principal pay down. You do as you're making the mortgage. So as it goes down every month, right, it's $258 on the principal. You're building another $6,100 in equity for when it closes. Man, you guys are at the Boston RIA too, huh? Remember you, Guy and Laura. Nice to see you again. All right, this is a deal in Salem, Connecticut. This particular seller, this is owner financing. So this seller is going to sell the property to me, and he's going to be the bank. Okay, debt-free house. Guy lives in Indiana. His daughter, I think, passes away, which was awful. She was young. He never wanted to deal with this property again. So it's an expired listing. We bought it for $399. We had a 48-month balloon, and we sold it for $429. Now this is a good deal. Seller was super flexible. Buyers were self-employed. They had large sums of cash. So here's what this looked like. They gave us $40,000 up front, so that's about 10%. And then they gave us $40,000 over the course of the lease. The monthly payment was $1,000 even. We actually pass along the taxes too, because I know you guys are going to ask that. So $1,000 principal only payment. We collected $1,700 a month, plus we passed along the taxes to the buyer. Monthly cash flow was $700, so that's $33,000 in cash flow. We marked up the house $30,000. In hindsight, we probably should have marked it up more. That property increased a lot, but good for the buyers. So here's the amazing part about a 0% interest rate. $48,000 of principal pay down in 4 years. This is how you hedge yourself against the market. Everybody always wants to know, well, what happens, Zach, if the market goes down? I say, well, if you're buying on owner financing, the market, as long as the market doesn't go down more than $48,000, I'm still at a break even, right? I'm still protected. And I don't expect the market to go down by that much anyways. Luckily, we won't go through a 2008, let's hope. But also, if it stays flat or increases, you got $48,000 in equity. We already collected $80,000 as a deposit, so we're technically negative on the payday 3. Here's another cool part. So this particular property had a 2-car garage with a studio above it. We continued to rent that during the rent to own. Because the way our contract was written up was like, you handle the house. When you go buy the house, you can also pick up this piece of property as well. And we controlled it. So we made $750 basically a month, so another $5,000 in cash flow on this deal. This particular deal is $109,000. Here's a writer down here. I'll give you a rule of thumb. Or you can type it out. It's good too. It's so funny. Get off your phone. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So here's some rule of thumbs. If you can buy the property in owner financing and you can get $199,000 price or higher, if you can get a $900 principal only payment or higher, and you get a 48-month balloon, and you sell it on rent to own, you'll get a six-figure deal. Six-figure deal. Not 99 or higher, $900 or higher, 48-month balloon, 0% interest or longer, and you sell it on rent to own, six-figure deal. Okay? All right, let me do another owner financing deal. This is that deal I mentioned earlier. Now you can see how the numbers add up. This is in Auburn, Massachusetts. Bought it for $183,900, 48-month balloon. This deal actually turned into a 21-year deal, but I'll share with you guys just the 48 months. Sold it for $239,000. Like, my arm's getting tired. Lavaliers, Ennis, lavaliers. Sold it for $239,000. Down payment, $15,000. $923 principal only payment. We rent it for $1,500. $480 per month, so that's $23,000. Marked up the house $56,000. We had $923 a month coming off because it's a principal only payment. And we collected $15,000, so it brings us to $85,000 in total paydays. So this deal, $123,000. We actually went to the seller, renegotiated the deal, got it to a 8-year deal, and then we renegotiated again to a 21-year deal. So that's what we call well stacking. That'll be for a whole nother day. I already got that lady bored to tears. She was like, I'm out of here, guys. This guy's teaching me how to make six figures, but hey, I got some other place to go, maybe Starbucks. This is another deal. This is a subject to deal. So last but not least, we'll go over sub 2 deals. So because I honestly believe that if you can buy properties on subject to the existing loan, that you are way ahead of everyone else right now, because there are so many deals out there that have interest rates that are less than 6% right now, and sellers that need your help. Either they're behind on payments, or they put down a very small down payment when they could during COVID, and now the market has not gone up. It actually may have gone down. Huge opportunity to help people save them from this current strategy and put them in a very strong situation. So we bought this property subject to the existing loan. We actually did there was actually an equity in it as well. So the seller owner financed the equity at 0% interest, 0 monthly payments, and a balloon. Call it a second mortgage or ghost mortgage. It's really just a holder, right? Got a $37,000 deposit. We had a monthly payment of $1,500. We collected $1,900, $400 a month in cash flow. We priced premium at $58,000. We already collected $37,000, $83,000 deal on this as well. Share with you. I wanted to share with you guys some HUDs too, so it wasn't just like in theory. This property was in Connecticut. We bought this house. I know everyone always asks us, like, what happens if the buyer defaults? This is what you do. So we bought this property from an ex-banker that had a regular lien on it, or a first lien, and also a HUD lien. So if he went and sold it traditionally, he would have to come out of pocket almost $14,000 at the time that we bought it. So I said, I'll buy it for exactly what you owe. We placed a tenant buyer in the house. They were in there for a while. Eventually, they ended up relocating, or they eventually ended up leaving. So we went and put it on the traditional market, went ahead and sold it, and made $77,000 on the back end. Let's say you take a deal that had no equity, buy it subject to the existing loan, and now you can create profits in these deals. This is what a 20-deal, 12-month profit looks like portfolio. Just want to share with you guys, this is what we were doing in our family. Just want to kind of zoom out for a second and what this business model can look like for you. In the course of 12 months and 20 deals, and I know some of you might say, like, that's tons of deals. I don't want to actually do that. That sounds too much. All right, cut it in half if you want 10 deals a year. We created $593,000 in non-refundable deposits, $6,400 in cash flow, and $822,000 in future profits. That's how you step off the treadmill and really put yourself in a strong position to go. Just share with you some additional things from our Wicked Smart community. I just wanted to share with you some additional portfolios. This is in Fresno. Mike's done 6 deals, about $495,000 in total profits created. This is Rick in Nashua, New Hampshire. His deals are averaging about $100,000 a deal. It's $437,000. This is Chicagoland. He's done 14 deals, $1.1 million. All these guys have different backgrounds. They just utilize the skill sets that we've taught them. Anybody interested in doing multifamilies on creative financing? Nobody. Okay, we'll go past this then. This is the deal we bought in Pawtucket. $120,000 principal only payment, $735 in net operating income. Of course, we're not selling this on rent to own. So here's some strategy you guys can use. All right, you're currently trying to buy multifamilies, right? And the numbers don't work. Well, the numbers can work if your seller is willing to do seller financing, right? If you're going to go get traditional financing right now, what's the average interest rate? Zach, what's the average interest rate on traditional financing right now? 7? Okay, 7. If a seller needs a specific price, right, and I know there's plenty of them out there. I'm right outside of Worcester. Like, they all think that they have gems right now, like $250,000 a freaking door. They all got gems. I can still pay the seller a much better price if the seller's willing to hold paper, if the seller is willing to become the bank, because I can make the numbers work differently. Because if I can get a lower down payment, I don't have to raise as much capital, or if I can get an interest rate that's much lower than today's current price, then I can make those things work, especially if they're willing to do principal-only payments. So the strategy on these is just debt pay down, market appreciation, and increase NOI, right? Typical strategy. We're not doing anything different about a buy and hold investor. We're just buying them differently. Just giving you another tool in your tool belt. So we ended up getting, this was an IRA invested. We created a total about $104,000 in profit on this deal. And we actually bought it at market rate at that time. This was that building that I was telling you about, the commercial building. It's right on Middletown, Rhode Island. We bought it from the seller. He was interested in seller financing. Here's what that deal looked like. So this was purchased in November 30th of 2018. We bought it for $550,000. We put down $35,000. The seller financed $515,000 at 5.21% interest rate. I don't know where else you're going to find those terms unless you find seller financing terms. Here's what we did. We improved the property, right? We kept our entire business in there. We had tenants. We went ahead and we sold it in September 2023 for $1.28 million. That means that at the end of the day, we ended up creating a total profit of $750,000 on this deal. It's not complicated, I promise you. It's just by simply asking different questions that you would not ask if you were only focused on the traditional way we've all been taught in buying real estate. Somebody was asking me earlier, well, how do you convince sellers? I don't convince sellers. I just ask them, hey, Mr. Seller, if I can get you to where you want to be, are you open to taking payments? And if somebody says no to me, do I freak out? No, I do not. I just ask them why it doesn't work. And then from there, I just continue to discover. Because how many of these types of deals that I showed you do you need to add to your portfolio in order to create some additional financial freedom, right? This community is all about financial freedom and time freedom. I showed you a strategy tonight that can get you financial freedom and time freedom. You're not managing or worrying about properties because you have 10 buyers in them. You're also not raising tons of capital. So if you're afraid of doing that and you don't want to do that, totally get it. I didn't start there either. I started by just simply solving people's problems. We have a product we call it our micro course, but it's a toolkit. It has a couple things in it. So number one is one of our Amazon best-selling books is in it. Yeah, we wrote these books way before creative financing was cool, I promise you. And we also updated it as well. So you'll get access to that inside the toolkit. You'll get seller scripts and live calls. You can literally listen to me and my team talking to sellers live on the phone. We have a very specific tools that we use and also we call it 7 steps to a take-in. So I want you guys to be able to follow those steps in order to get these deals. Let's see what else I got. And because Life Rewards Action, which is one of my favorite things to say. I wanted to make sure, so starting tomorrow, we actually have a 3-day virtual event. It consists of like 5 50-minute sessions. We actually have an amazing speaker too. Anybody know who Forbes Riley is? She's amazing. She's like an absolute. She sold over $2.3 billion on QVC. Amazingly, I met at an event. She's going to be one of our speakers. But I encourage you guys to plug in. We normally sell a ticket for $200. I'm going to give you a free ticket. So if you're playing in the background, you guys listen to it. We're going to talk about creative financing deals for 3 days. So I encourage you guys to do that to continue to dive further in. And also you get a session to kind of speak with one of our advisors to say, hey, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. How can creative financing help me get there? Depending on what my current business is and what my current goals are as well. Because, of course, we want to do deals with you guys, but also I want to make sure that you guys have all the strategies you guys need in order to actually go out there. Because I can tell you, if I didn't find creative financing or creative financing didn't find me, I would be in a totally different spot. I'd still be slinging drinks at Pelham with bachelorettes. So I'm glad I'm in a different spot. Not that that was a bad life. So in order to claim your ticket, all you got to do, if you take out your phone, I encourage you guys to do so. I'll give it to you for free today. So you get the toolkit and the bonuses, the ticket. Plug in tomorrow. Come spend, if you enjoyed spending an hour with me, come spend 3 days with me, and I'll show you really how to dive into those creative financing deals. So it's smartrealestatecoach.com/toolkit. Make sure you use the coupon code WhiteacreTK. WhiteacreTK. Go ahead and grab it on their QR code. I think that is, that's where I'm going to end today. Thank you, guys. And if you guys got questions, I'm here to answer questions.
So you had some good stories. Guys, thank you for actually being quiet and listening to this guy with all that information. That's crazy.
That's something loud. I overwhelm everyone.
Before you go,
Yeah.
tell us some deals not, that didn't work out.
Ooh, deals that didn't go well.
Yeah.
Uh,
Some of these, obviously, we've done a few of them.
Oh, yeah. All right, tell you about my first deal. Everybody know where Jefferson, Massachusetts is? Holden? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So imagine this. So I'm trying to go from bartender to real estate investor. I'm partnering up with my father-in-law. So I'm like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to like real estate, but hey, I want to try to figure this out. So I said, let me start making phone calls. It takes me 6 months to do my first deal. I'm all excited. Look, I'm the in-law trying to figure this out. Do my first deal. Take down a subject to deal in Jefferson. So we buy the property. What happens in Jefferson is it's also located in Holden as well. Like there's one of them, one of the town records states that there's no lead in the property, and one of them states that it's a nationally known house with lead in it. So of course we check the one that says there's no lead. So I buy it. We place a tenant buyer in the house. She's a little crazy. She starts testing the walls and the window sills. We discover that there's lead in it, $30,000 lead job. Imagine that, $30,000 lead job. So that deal could have broke me. I could have said, real estate, it sucks. This thing is terrible. It doesn't work. Because I literally had a deal that I thought was going to make money and didn't. And it took us about 3 years to actually make a good amount of money on that deal. So that was certainly a nightmare story. Any other? Do you guys want more of them? Because I could probably write a book on nightmare stories. Done college rentals, COVID. I had somebody sit and squat in the house for 24 months. It was almost $20,000. No, I lied. It was $70,000 in back payments that they owed us. Still in collections though. We're getting $200 a month from them to the end of their time.
Talk about the attorneys a little bit. I
Yeah.
know some attorneys actually don't do any of this, right? So
Yeah.
who do you guys work with? Talk
Yeah.
to the people a little bit more.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'd say attorneys are just like realtors, right? There's a lot of people that have been doing things for a long time and they stick in their box and they're not going to do anything else because there's a lot more effort to do it, right? Especially the old school attorneys and agents. I work with 2 different ones on every single deal. I have an asset protection attorney and I have a real estate attorney. The most, I'm going to use complicated as light, but the one that requires the most paperwork is the subject to deals. So that one we actually buy in a trust. And then the trust, then you create an LLC, and the LLC is the beneficiary of the trust. That way we can go based upon the Garden-St. Germain Act of 1982 or 84 that states that somebody can go ahead and transfer title of ownership on a property without a due on sales clause being called. So the trust is in the seller's name, and then we close on it, and then the seller then does a trustee deed to us, and then we have a pocket deed in hand. This is what happens when you're like in the trenches, all right? This is why we're not like teaching shit that was like 3, 4, 5, 10 years old. A lot of things are evolving right now. You have a lot of low interest rates. So now attorneys want us to be even more protective on our deals, so then we added the pocket deed now. So we used to always just buy in the trust, and now we add in the pocket deed as well. So it's always evolving. That's why we have that. So then we have that set up as the ownership, and then we have the regular real estate attorney. But yes, real estate attorneys have to be willing and open to structuring creative financing deals, because it's not in the, it doesn't fit in a box. Every deal is completely different.